Alright, I want to make a video on Conqueror. For those of you wondering, I guess I'll make a video about Double's video and Voyboy's post and things. I guess I'll do that later, but, the run times I have on this video are slightly under 20 minutes, and, I don't think I'll be able to fit anything more in there. So, maybe I'll make a second video tomorrow. Okay, but I want to make a video on Conqueror. And this is something I really didn't want to do because the forums are very underrepresentative of top lane and bruiser players and very overrepresentative of AD carry players, especially right now. So anything not loving AD carries and pity partying them is going to get hated on a lot. And anything that possibly supports bruisers who are apparently taking over bot lane despite that literally just not even being true. There's not a single bruiser being played bot lane. Really, in solo queue, that's gone. And in competitive, it never happened, really. I mean, there was like 1 week where people tried it, and then it was done. And so I don't know where the hate's going from with that one. But, so here's a video I wanted to make about Conqueror. Your minute-long intro. So I want to start with Conqueror isn't overpowered. Now, the most basic thing to go along with this is no stats show Conqueror is overpowered. Several champions have higher win rates without Conqueror, even bruiser champions. Fiora does, Olaf does, Gangplank does, Aatrox does. Fiora with Grasp the Undying, Olaf with Arcane Comet, Gangplank with Grasp the Undying, and Aatrox with Arcane Comet and Grasp the Undying. So to say that Conqueror is the end be all, that everyone must take it because it's so strong, and in addition to that, that if you don't use Conqueror, you're not viable because you'll be trashed by people with Conqueror, it's just simply not true. I mean, Aatrox is unarguably the best top laner in the game right now, at least for the laning phase, and he doesn't use Conqueror. I mean, even when you look at champions like Gangplank, massive lane bully, no Grasp the Undying, or say no Conqueror, Grasp the Undying. Olaf, massive lane bully, his best win rate, Arcane Comet. Fiora, massive lane bully, Grasp the Undying. Conqueror is actually not a laning phase keystone, and is best used mid to late game, which for many champions can become very difficult to use mid to late game. I mean, a lot of people look at Kled down here. This champion had a 55% win rate when he only did 2% play rate. A bunch of people started to play him, and all of a sudden his win rate started to go down to 52% from 55%. My opinion, that comes down almost entirely to people not really knowing how to use Conqueror and his W. It's very difficult and tricky and fucky to get to work. In a competitive setting, the highest pick ban Conqueror champion in the LCK is at number 12, and the second highest is at number 18. It's number 12, Aurelia, who got massively nerfed, and her pick ban is likely going to drop here. And then at number 18 is Darius. Below that is Yasuo. I think Yasuo still uses Conqueror. So there is a very large gap where Conqueror is simply not being picked. So you're telling me that Conqueror, despite being the most broken keystone in the game, the only one that needs to be nerfed, not Grasp the Undying, not Arcane Comet, Conqueror only, Conqueror alone needs to be nerfed, that all these champions not using Conqueror are totally okay, but these few champions, I mean, and the thing is, look at it. Do you really see a consistent pattern where Conqueror is being picked and dominating the game? It makes up 4. It makes up 4 of these champions. To say that it's overrepresentative is absurd to me. Conqueror only makes up 3 out of the 10 of the top tiers of top laners, which is to say that even in top lane, Conqueror is not being overrepresentative. For a rune that was literally given to bruisers, for a rune that Riot said, this is your rune, bruisers, use this rune because we forgot to give you another rune, it still isn't overrepresentative. I want to talk about this. Tanks are not weak. Some tank champions are weak. The class is not weak. This argument is completely absurd to me. It's like saying, let's go down the list here. This argument is like saying, Jesus, I don't know, since Renekton is very down the tier list, that all bruisers are bad. That Trundle is bad top lane, so all bruisers are bad. That, Jesus, I don't even know. It's just a stupid argument. That because Hecarim isn't even pickable. I mean, Hecarim's not even on this list anymore. That bruisers are bad. It's stupid. I don't even feel like a tank anymore. Is the stupidest circle jerkiest argument I've ever heard. It's from a bunch of tank players who are so used to being able to straight ignore bruisers after 20 minutes that they now have to actually acknowledge that bruisers are a real champion with presence. It's from people that don't know that Grassband dying still beats Conqueror in lane, who are bad, and I'm gonna say that outright. They are bad players who try to play their champions improperly, get beaten, and then complain about it. That's what it is. Simply put, that's what it is. You don't see Singed players with Summonary losing to Conqueror. That's something down here I was going to talk about. You don't... I mean, even now, even after the nerf, Maokai still bullies most Conqueror players out of lane. Gangplank, grass spam. Fiora, grass spam. Aatrox, comet spam. Olaf, comet spam. These bully Conqueror players out of the lane. That's not an argument, that's just a fact. Multiple tanks are still top tier in this meta. Sejuani is top tier. Multiple support tanks are still top tier. And don't give me that, oh, but they're support, so they're not real tanks. Ornn, still top tier. Mundo, the probably overall strongest top laner in the game right now. Doesn't use Conqueror. Poppy, still top tier. And yes, I will say that outright. A lot of people don't believe me. Poppy isn't popular, but she's top tier. Singed has a massive win rate despite the circle jerk. I mean, that's just true. If you look at Singed, he has a very high play rate. Well, high-ish play rate. Still a good win rate. I mean, and look at the counter picks. Look at the counter picks here. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how the top 3 counter picks aren't bruisers? The 4th is Yorick. The 5th isn't a bruiser. And then you got, what, Wukong? I mean, how many of these are actually bruisers? How many of these are conquerors? You have not conqueror, not conqueror, not conqueror, not conqueror, not conqueror. Not... Literally, Trin. He's the only one with a conqueror, and he goes 50-50. It's absurd to me. I mean, how... All classes have weak champions. Here's another point I wanted to make, and this one's really important. I actually read this off Reddit, so if you're the guy who made this, I stole this from you. Okay? If bruisers are strong, tanks are still played. If tanks are strong, bruisers aren't played. If tanks are strong, Khan is playing a bruiser or he's playing Jace. And don't fucking start saying, oh, well, Jace is a bruiser. I fucking hate that argument. No, Mundo is not a bruiser. No, Yasuo is not a bruiser. No, Swain and Vlad are not bruisers. You can't just start classifying everything as a bruiser to try to counter the bruiser argument. But yeah, no, we saw this. When there was no Conqueror, Khan was forced to play a tank. There's an argument over here. Nobody gives a shit if bruiser players are forced to play tanks. Look at all the bullshit that has been spawned because AD carries had to play mages. The front page of Reddit has been a non-stop waterfall from AD carry tiers. Bruisers were forced to play tanks for years. What was the front page? You have to adapt to the meta. Hashinshin just doesn't want to play the new meta. But no, Tyler One complaining about this, just saying bring back 80 carries. That makes the front page. That makes number 1. Other bruiser players just either straight quitting the game or having to play tanks. No, that's just like a good job, bruisers. Thank you for adapting to tanks. Darius is a top tier pick and tanks are still played. How can that be if they're smashed so hard? Seriously, riddle me that one. How can tanks still be picked commonly if Darius smashes them in lane? Because they're just so much better outside of the lane. The fact that they used to be absolutely smashing you in lane, then outscaling you and being too tanky to kill, then also outperforming you in team fights, that's why tanks were replacing bruisers. Going back to that, saying, oh, we need to swing the pendulum back. At this point, the pendulum is pretty much just flat in the middle. And you're like, well, the pendulum used to be here, but now it's here. We would prefer if it was here. We want a little bit of bias to tanks, but not full bias. How about no bias? How about you just don't do any bias? Here's a point that I really want to bring up that people just are completely dismissive of, and as a streamer, I see in real time. Tanks aren't fun. They do not get one-tricked. This means all the one-tricks that champions like Jax enjoy, that Cinch enjoy, these one-tricks who drag up their win rates, who, by the way, Jax without the one-tricks would be shit. Those don't exist. I mean, seriously, look at the play rate of any tank. 3.2%. Top tier. 3.5%. Playable. Very, very playable. We see Shen, not frequently, but infrequently. 1.3%. This is a playable champion. 1.3%. Now he's a little under nerfed, I'll admit. 2.3%. Top tier pick. This is absurd to me. Like, how can you say that? You know, 3.4%. Here's a champion who can bully any Conqueror player out of lane. No, but Hashinshin, you need health stacking to beat Conqueror. How about a 20% stackable, it's not stackable, spammable shield? How about that? How's that for health stacking? But 3.4%. Even Mundo, seriously, look at Mundo. Here's a champion, top tier, best overall top laner in the game. 8.1%. They're not popular at all. They do not get one-tricked. Lower win rate. They do not get streamed. Seriously, they destroy view rate. Streamers avoid them like the plague. To put this into perspective with you guys, Ornn and Aatrox both have similar things. Ornn was released very weak. Aatrox was reworked. Arguably weak. Aatrox got buffed, Ornn got buffed. I started to play Ornn when people thought he was still a bad champion. I was doing the wacky fucking shit with him, stun locking a Darius from full HP and killing him. You know, doing those wacky fucking Ornn plays. I was doing that. What was my play rate? Or sorry, what was my view rate? How many viewers was I getting? I was getting less than 2,000 viewers. Anytime the videos made, you know, synapse or something, people would go, well, I don't like watching that. All he did was press W. What did Aatrox get? 5,000 to 6,000 viewers. Almost 3 times as many people came out to watch Aatrox than watch Ornn. Pretty much played the same way, bullying the shit out of lane, being weaker late game. Ornn's stronger late game than Aatrox, but, you know, being weaker late game. But 3 times the viewers. Now, here's something I really want to say. Tanks have the lowest skill cap and become incredibly brutal to any minute they exist in. When Cho'Gath and Ornn were the best tanks and Grasp Bandang didn't exist, there was literally no reason to ever play a bruiser. They were lower skill cap, more powerful, unbeatable if you didn't kill them 5 times in the laning phase, and even if you did, they would outscale you. They crush the spirits of top laners. They reduce the skill cap of top lane. They make top lane a lane where you can't really carry anymore. It's just, they're very overbearing on any meta where they are the top tier picks. Look at Mundo. Seriously, look at Mundo. We got a champion who wins lanes by spamming Q from far away and then scaling up. A lot of people aren't even picking bruisers anymore to try to kill Mundo. What do we see? We see a lot of counter tanks against Mundo. Bruiser items suck. Conqueror was supposed to band-aid that. For all the complaints that people have over the current 80 carry itemization being too expensive, bruiser itemization is more expensive than that. Now you'll say, oh, but bruisers have Trinity, so they have one item that makes them strong. Sure, but bruiser items are still understat for how much they cost. Still, Conqueror was supposed to band-aid that. Look at Styriag's Gauge, 3,200 gold. Look at Titanic Hydra, 3,500 gold. Conqueror is a band-aid to bruiser items overall sucking. Look at a champion like Aatrox. And in fact, look at any bruiser except Fiora and Camille. Unless you can convert your stats into true damage, you're gonna get outscaled. Even 30% armor pen Darius wasn't doing anything until people figured out the Conqueror lane bullying build. Okay? They literally canceled the bruiser item update. If they had gone through with the bruiser item update, maybe I would say, okay, fine, you can nerf Conqueror. But they didn't. So there's basically a band-aid on a gushing wound, and you guys are like, well, it's been a few months, let's rip that band-aid off. Great, it's just gonna start bleeding everywhere again. Finally, what the fuck is going on with mages? Mages are played and destroying AD carries, yet AD carries are still pretending that bruisers are killing them. AD carries are basically getting fucked from behind in the ass by mages, and then they point to bruisers and they go, you did this! And bruiser players are just sitting there like, what do we do? They're played sometimes top lane, sometimes in the jungle, and every so often Aurelia gets picked for another lane. And supposingly we're Satan that need our Keystone Band-Aid nerfed? It makes no sense. Actually, I'm already gone over this. Nobody gives a shit if bruiser players are forced to play tanks. I want to reiterate that because nobody gives a shit. If I didn't start spamming the front page with videos, we would never have gotten Conqueror. And we would still be seeing tank v tank in competitive, which we see even now with Conqueror. But that's all you would see. But here, I want to make this a final point. Everyone calls everything a bruiser to fuck with the numbers. I've seen this time and time again. When AD carry players started to notice, now they haven't fully gotten it, but when they started to notice that bruisers weren't being played top lane competitive or at high low, they started to call champions bruisers to make themselves feel as if they were right and feel as if, you know, they were vindicated the whole time. Swain being called a bruiser, Vlad being called a bruiser, Yasuo being called a bruiser, Dr. Mundo being called a bruiser. You can't just call everything a bruiser. And even look right here. One of the top 10 champions using Conqueror. And here's the thing. If you went to top 20, it would only be 5. Just so we're clear. So don't say I'm cherry picking the numbers. 3 of the top 10, 5 of the top 20. Okay. One of them is Yasuo. And let's be honest, the only reason the system, and I don't want to argue with it, I'm not going to argue with it, but let's just be clear, the only reason the system puts him at S+ is because his ban rate is dragging his numbers up because people are so pissed off at him that they don't want to play against him. Let's just be clear on that, okay? So, there's my video. I got this in 17 minutes, yes, that's why I couldn't do anything else. I just want to say that overall, anyone who's made it this far in the video, the forums are very overrepresented. They've always been very overrepresented by AD carry players, but especially bruiser players have quit the game in numbers that are so big. I mean, seriously, at top ranks for NA, how many top like I don't think people understand how few top mains are left to even complain about this issue. I truly think people can't conceptualize that. Almost all the big top lane streamers have quit. Almost all the big top lane players have quit. Now, most league players, I mean, ranked player base in NA is down to like half, but seriously. See you later, mate. Oops, sorry, I pulled up Twitch. If you pull up Twitch, seriously look at it. Seriously look at it. I'm looking at it right now. The top streams I'm looking at English are Gosu, I Will Dominate, Tyler, Froggen, Vipora Dark, Midbeast, Cowsep, Bizzleberry, then finally comes in at Fogged at 500 viewers. I'm not trying to disparage Fog, but I'm trying to prove a point. There's no one left. Like, you guys might not like that I'm the one making these videos, but if I didn't make it, no one else would. And the thing is, a longer top lane exists in a fucky state. Like, anytime top lane goes back to a fucky state, more people are going to quit, and it's going to be harder to drag it out of it. You know, it's like quicksand. Once it's in quicksand, it's just going to keep sinking until someone pulls it out. But Riot's just trying to push us back into the quicksand, and then it's going to be harder to pull us out again. It really is. When you already have, like, I don't play Jax anymore. Just to be clear, I don't really play Jax anymore. Look at the counters and shit to Jax. There's a pretty high counter rate to Jax. This champion is very easy to destroy. Yeah. So that's all. That's the video. I don't have fancy editing like other people do. So all I can do is talk into a mic. Bye-bye, everyone.